What's popular YouTube? Another day, another demo. What's good? It's number 19, and we're here in the top 20 for 2021. And just as a disclaimer, this is because of HLTV's top 20, because it's obviously a fantastic and fun part of the year to follow along with HLTV and read the amazing articles they write for every single player and look at their logic and try to compare and argue with your friends about who was better and who wasn't and who got snubbed. But this list, unlike last year's list, which was more of a direct prediction list for HLTV's top 20, this one's just going to be my top 20. So I based it off of a lot of the same metrics as HLTV in terms of big events and their ratings on LAN and also their overall presence. And I think I took into account for myself, how strong were they compared to their region for some of the online games in terms of like how much of a discrepancy there was. So because obviously it's still COVID, we had a few LANs, but it's still kind of like 2020 where not everything was played together and all the teams got to play in the same spots for the entire year. So another kind of stressful year. At least we got some really good LANs. And of course we got a major. So major is weighted the heaviest in my mind. And it's the most important event of the year. So, okay, read some of your comments. We put out the top 20 player, which was Elian, of course, a very kind of under the radar pick for me who kind of came in at the end. And this range between 15 and 20 is, I think, where it gets the sketchiest. I mean, it's very hard to say, who is objectively or close to objectively the very best at that point. And then when you get to the top 10, I mean, everyone's lists are going to be kind of similar. So I think there'll still be a few surprises on mine. But yeah, for number 19, who you got? I'll give you a few seconds. Drum roll, please. That's right, you guessed it. It's the man on your screen, Kscerato. Okay? Kscerato is coming in at number 19 for me this year. Brazilian player, 22 years old, had a wonderful year from a stats perspective online. And what I'll do is I'll do the demo. We'll watch through the half that I want to look at. We'll talk about it. And then we'll do some of the stats and logic stuff at the end of the demo, because I end up talking a lot through the intros, and some of the early rounds in these games are there's not a whole bunch to talk about. So I'm going to use some of this time to go over some of the narrative stuff like we were doing in some of the most recent demos, because I think that sounds better and it's more fun to watch. So we can use the game as background, kind of a B-roll to discuss some of the narratives around the players that we're talking about. So, who is Kscerato? And I think for me this year, it was really between him and Yuri for who was the best of Furia and also the best of Brazil overall in terms of, who was the most ready to play versus the top teams, who had a fair amount of experience playing versus the top teams this year. And Kscerato and Furia obviously were able to qualify to the Legend stage at the Major. Kscerato through the entire champion stage challenge, whatever the second stage before Legend stage, was able to really run through some strong teams. And also earlier in the year, they played events like Katowice, which were online, but they had really hard runs actually, and he was definitely not a question mark. So pretty much another sea of green for him throughout the year. And although Cologne and the Major are the only two events listed as big events for him this year, I think he definitely played very well for what it's worth in both of them. Now, we look at Cologne, and they didn't have a deep run or anything. I think they were 9th through 12th. But in the matches they played super strong teams. And again, Kscerato, I think he pulled out like a 1.29 rating across all the maps. So, in a list like this, of course, the players who are on top teams get an edge when it comes to collecting stats, basically. Like, if you win a lot of games, your KD will be very high. You'll have a very high... you'll have a very strong KD ratio, plus your average ADR will be pretty good if you're playing less rounds and winning a lot and all that stuff. So there's a huge edge for the players in the top 5 teams and the top 10 teams to really separate themselves from everyone else. But that doesn't mean that players on some of these worst teams are worse players, right? And there has to be some kind of line drawn between where you're proving you're good enough and also you in all your other games have enough of a discrepancy between the worst teams in the world, the top 20, top 30 teams in the world, that you show you're way better than them. And in my opinion, I think that's how I've looked at it, at least So for Kscerato, of course, we know that he's not one of the players in Europe, right? And the players in Europe are regularly playing against a lot stronger competition. But that's also why he's kind of at the bottom of the list. You know, I put Elian up there because I thought he was like basically tier 2 player of the year from my perspective, looking at how good his matches were in a very difficult region. I mean, yes, the matches are tier 2, but dude, I mean, there's just no sleeper games these days. And he also had that major to top it off. The cherry on top. The Marachismo, sweet, delicious cherry on top. The outstanding major performance. And Kscerato joins him in that way. So, yeah, he's a rifler out of Brazil. He plays on Furia. And I think the real funny part about Furia is when we characterize them, we think about a team that's defined by Art and Art's calling style and the ethos of running down mid, holding W, being extremely aggressive. But you really have two right-hand men for Art in a lot of the rounds where he's making the aggressive maneuvers. And as a unit, they've slowed down a little bit and started to play a bit more composed style of CS. And I don't know exactly why. I think it's probably because it's, leaning towards some kind of balance, is respecting the idea that you can win that way. And I've heard Art say that their playstyle was born because they wanted to try to play a style of CS that was different, because if they went to play Astralis on LAN and they played like Astralis, they would lose. That's what he said. And that makes tons of sense. But now we're in a situation where a lot of these players have so much experience. They're all respected. They're players who have been studied quite a bit now. Oh, little 1v1 ski for Kscerato. Also an extremely clutch player, in my opinion. Of course. Oh, Hobbit is too, but you got to love that. It's a nice round win here for Kscerato. These players on Furia are good no matter how they play, and I think that's the big thing. I think Kscerato, when the team started, was the clear best player on the team, but quickly Yuri caught up to him, and in terms of stats, and I mean, I feel like he was basically on par, and for me, Yuri was the guy on Furia who was just a slight bit even better than Kscerato, but this year is Kcerato's best year on record, super strong year, and Yuri and him were very close, but I gave Kscerato the edge for a few, specific match results, but they're both up there, man. There's, I would love to make this list top 30 because there's obviously a few players that that I would have loved to see on my own personal list, but didn't put them there for one reason or another. We'll get into that in the future. Oh, look at this. We got Kscerato on the op, and I haven't watched that many Furia games this year because that's just by happenstance. We got to catch them, I believe, at the both showdowns. And watched all their matches of the major, streamed every single game that major went on, which was pretty cool. And this game is a stage match. So we're watching Kscerato play against Gambit, and it's an Inferno match where, of course, we're now into the second half of it. Furia end up losing this game in overtime, so they go the distance, at least in regulation. And Kscerato was the best rated player in the whole server, despite his team losing. It was something like Kscerato, highest rated player, 5 Gambit players, and then everyone else on Furia. And that wasn't a one-time thing for Kscerato. He's regularly doing this. So Kscerato was Sniperato. His op, you got to love that. And I think I hope I have this right. He has a cousin. I don't think it's his brother. He has a cousin named Woody. And it's spelled Wood7. And he's playing on another. Wait, is he playing on MIBR? He was playing on some Brazilian team that I casted this year, and he was actually a really, really solid opper. And I saw Kscerato on Twitter call him Zywood to compare him to the great Zywu, of course, which was adorable. And I think it was because he's his cousin, and also because he was playing so damn well. But kind of cool how it runs in the family sometimes with these guys. I was super convinced that we should get Henny back on Furia. But I've heard some good arguments for the idea of bringing in Safe. Woody is another one. There's actually a few very talented oppers that are not past their prime that could potentially come in. But as I say that, of course, we've got 2 fantastic oppers on the server right now. Art and Kscerato both having a go at it. But yeah, this is the big stage match where, it's the Legend stage, the first round. And it was versus a team who some had as the favorites to win the major. Some people believed that Gambit were going to beat Na'Vi. I believe that this match itself would actually be easy. And I thought that Furia were not going to be able to hold their own at all versus Gambit. I felt like stylistically they were going to struggle a lot versus a team like Gambit, because I've kind of seen how it goes when they play against teams that are very slow and methodical. I think they can struggle sometimes with teams that give them space but are very comfortable with that idea, whereas teams that play more aggressively like matches up very well versus them, and you can see Furia stomp in those games. But just as I talk about the styles of these, two different kinds of players and teams, Kscerato is a very chill, laid-back player who is super strong in the clutch rounds and is a very strong rifler. Of course, he picks up the op every once in a while, apparently, and doesn't play like the Furia brand, if you will. But that's what's important, and that's also what's really annoying, I think, for teams when they play against Furia. That, expect they're going to push at every single turn. As soon as you leave, they're going to be there. And Art will oftentimes be there. And when he's having a great game, this team just avalanches over opponents. But in the other situations where Art might die, you have Kscerato and you have Yuri, who are much more reserved, much more calculated, much more careful, there to pick up the slack. And that's been who they are since the beginning of the team, despite everyone being regarded as an aggressive, crazy player. It's not necessarily that true. So any situation that you have like this, where you've got what I always call the Virtus Pro lane setup of the old Virtus Pro, the Polish one, where they do triple on lane. And the idea is if you have one boosted up on the porch, you can see over the arch smoke. And if they go that way, or sorry, you can see over the lane smoke. And if they go that way, even if they smoke you out, you have no one arch, you can still spot them. So you usually have one person playing anti-flash, which is turned around facing a wall, waiting for a flash to pop. One person spotting in case they don't flash. And then a third player here in the lane that also has to be aware of the presence out of the hall. So, okay, Kscerato, emergency rotation over towards arch. The last thing you want to know is that you have to call a timing and someone could have made it to CT. He's kind of taking it very risky with the way that he's coming in and out of this position. So when you're rotating out from arch, you have to be worried about somebody who's walked up halls. And now in a double pit setup, they're saying, okay, cool. We're going to double pit if it's anything out of halls or lane. We have a very strong setup. If they do kind of an arch split to B, I'm letting my teammates know that they have to worry about that. And as soon as you have the... Oh, okay. Wow. And this is a lurk from Nafany. Oh, Nafany will get the kill. Oh. All right. The 2-on-1 situation. This is where I'm always watching the minimap. What's the teammate doing? How are they approaching this together? Here, right now... Oh, that's... Okay, so we had a spot where we're just chilling to see if they push the smoke. If not, then we wait it out. Lots of time on the clock to burn. Always calculate from the time down, whatever you're going to do. Every decision is based on the clock. And in this spot, they're coming in on both walls. Kscerato to try to take someone out inside the pool, and Art, of course, watching for Banana. And that works out beautifully. So that's some leverage. Now they're into double digits. Double D-Jotos. We'll edit that out. Blast gave me some snacks. Gave me a welcome basket. Look at it. Or a thank you basket for the year. Wow, good guy Blast. Kscerato mowed down once again. That's like me when I'm casting. When we go to halftime, sometimes we don't have time to eat, or the catering comes when the first map starts. So we just have like a plate of food in front of us, and we just like try to eat as much as we can, right down to the last second. Right before we come back from break, and we just eating like potatoes and fish cakes and stuff. Why did we get the bouncing M4? I don't know why we deserve this. Let's see what the new look is, because we hear someone inside of alt. And the Molotov inside the window is to deny a timing so Kscerato can hold on to mid for a little bit longer. Now, there's still in a couple of seconds here, there's a moment where someone could walking down into boiler. So Kscerato will spot that. And then he'll get off. This is all you have to do is the opera on the site. Of course, it sounds easier than it is. And now with Vinny dead, Kscerato's going to take a risk here. So... they have the smoke to try to deny lane presence, but there's too many pieces dying. How do Furia come back into this game? This is very surprising. Unless this goes all the way to 50 and they bring it back. Oh, no, it's over, actually. Yeah, wow, they come back from 15. 15-11, famous North American scoreline. Uh-oh. That is not a great smoke. Oh, my God, they don't have good guns either. Okay, so when you don't have good guns, guys, close positions become a lot stronger. This is more of a G2 style lane setup with this boost on the half wall. Now, typically you have someone in that position close to where Kscerato is aiming around this flower bed on the inside of mid. That's where Hunter plays. Rops will play there sometimes on Mouse Sports. And it's so strong with this crossfire. And the thing about Inferno is very hard to commit to get information without fully committing to a site, committing to lane or whatever. So here's a situation where they're like, okay, there could be an opportunity. We could see that Kscerato can actually see very deep into mid. If Nafany was closer to the other wall, of course, he would have been able to stop that. All right, I think it's Kscerato time now. Another kill on Hobbits inside of Halls and a 5v2 retake situation. 2 players left, maybe on Banana, maybe in the site. Seems like the call is on the site. And they're coming in with haste. I don't know. Maybe they don't have a kit, actually, in this situation, so they've got to try to trade down. Oh, wow. This is a solid situation, actually, for Gambit there for a moment. But Kscerato will get the final kill. 10-second stick. 3 rounds to go. And now it's game time. Let's see how they do this. And we'll watch the whole OT. Maybe we'll cut out some of the early rounds because they were not so interesting. But this is where the game gets a little bit interesting. Man, I can't even put Kscerato in a spot. He's actually been the pit anchor. He's been the lane player. He's been a B opper, and he's just played Arch with a rifle. This time around, they're really mixing it up. Art scopes in early. It's dead silent, and they're using drop way back in B. Art will get his kill. Kscerato's still in a bait position. This is a very dangerous spot for Kscerato to play because he doesn't have a smoke to use. So if they volley him out at default, there's no pressure on Bracket from lane as well. So we'll see if his teammate can help him from the pit. But right now, Kscerato, he might have to take a risky timing, or as soon as someone throws a nade at him, he swings. And, oh, they don't actually molly it. And see, that's the timing right there. You can't wait too long. That's a moment where you got to trust your instincts, okay? You can feel the setup that's coming. You've watched the demos. You played against these teams. You know how long they take to do things. Oh, they haven't mollied me yet? Oh, they're starting to clear things out. Don't wait for him to swing on you. Don't wait for him to swing on you. You do have to find a timing to peek, and Kscerato finds that exact right moment, right? They're holding him for quite some time, I'm sure of it. Sitting in this corner, waiting, holding Cubby, seeing if anybody peeks, and Kscerato just seeing if they're actually going to test him with any utility. And the thing is that if you're going to molly out Cubby, if you're just like right there, and you can't pull out that molly and then throw it. Kscerato will just swing on you if you're by yourself. It's much safer to have someone do it with you. Oh, we bring this back in a big way. Immediately swarming the bomb. Small thing, but it's also kind of important sometimes to throw the smokes and stuff like that off of walls a little bit far away. You can't always right-click smokes because then it'll just be heard exactly where you are. So if you don't have people with you, you got to think about the fact that every time you pull a pin on a smoke grenade, somebody can hear that. All right, last round up. Off to Arch once again, which is the rifle. So the player on Arch has probably the most freedom of rotation. You know, your Arch player, your B rotator, they're the ones who are throwing early grenades and then they're leaving after. So you'll see, because you know whoever rotates in will come in through Arch, and whoever rotates to B will come from Arch. Holding flashes for your B guys is a really important one as a rotator. But as the guy who might leave, sometimes you're the guy who wants to and needs to throw the smoke first. In terms of nade priority, that's something I don't really talk about a lot as well. But that's something important to consider. But you don't really have to be a pro to understand that. You can just think about the logic of, all right, well, if I'm playing a spot where I'm going back and forth between sites, you know, and they need me to smoke mid on a timing just in case something happens, well, you know, I can't be the guy in the mid round holding the smoke. So sometimes it's good to, well, it's always good to know and remember when you need to be a place because of nades. And obviously, these days you can drop utility, but your Arch guys, not perfectly communicating with your lane players. And it looks like this boost will probably be pretty good. Let's see what happens at Kscerato. Spamming on a timing. And just that line suppressing fire a little bit delays the bomb plan as they, don't want to cross right away. Kscerato kills Nafany. One left, and this is just such an easy retake now, you'd think. I guess this is where the overtime gets very interesting. Let's see how close Hobbit can make it. They're waiting at the CT smoke once again. They like to make sure that they're playing it properly and not playing too quickly. And it's a player in pool. He goes down 15-15. Let's go off into overtime. Cool. Kscerato plays 1280 by 960. I copied over his Bob and his view model, but he plays 1280 by 960 black bars. But I'm just not doing that for the YouTube video because it makes it really tough. There's just not a lot of screen real estate. It's black bars on the outside, and then it's the webcam on the inside, and there's even less space to look at. So just so you're aware, if you want to be like Kscerato, first you got to get a Butterfly Ruby. Secondly, you got to play 1280 960 black bars. Now, they've been really annoying about how much they're peeking Arch, and just like it always has been on Inferno, a lot of this comes down to how you're playing on Arch. That's a ridiculous trade, or a denial of trade from Nafany. But the two pit setup is powerful. Versus A hits, some would say the most powerful setup. There's a lot of space to work with. When you're a mini and big, your two teammates are communicating really well. You can see what the other one is watching. You don't have a super powerful line towards Arch, but when they see you in mini, they're suddenly hypnotized with you inside of mini, right? It's very hard to scale when you can see someone sitting in mini pit staring at you. So just being there, having someone there is really huge for slowing down the site hits. And when the opposite team, the team on the T side, is trying to wrap the site, they're trying to keep perfect spacing between each other on lane and Arch and halls and have these specific timings so that they can trade instantly. And if one guy gets slowed down, that's how it's the first step to dismantling an attack, throwing a wrench in the works. So taking a small peek here or there from mini is good. Not overcommitting is also good. I remember seeing the scoreline and think, oh, this game is over. And then it goes to overtime. Uh-oh. Halls is a problem. And we're at this level. People are going to be very careful when they throw grenades. They're going to make sure that somebody's watching whatever they are throwing grenades into along with them just for those few seconds. Because these tiny little timings will cost you entire tournaments, it feels like. So right here, you could stay tucked, but any op that comes into your line, it's a rook on an open file, right? Don't throw that away by tucking when you don't need to. And if you do get flashed, that sucks, but you're also down 4v5. So you could consider this the small risk of the round for the 4v5 to just be standing out a little bit. And also, you can just tuck right after. And if they don't full clear mid, they won't see you. Tuck behind that pillar. So that's why you want to hold this line. It'll give you some advantages. Oh, okay. Nice shot from Kscerato. Now we're talking. Oh, man. They're up 17-15. This is, I'm not crazy. This doesn't even go 3 maps, I don't think. Wow, they're 2 away from winning. How did Gambit bring this back? They actually have to win 4 straight. A new spot, 1 flash at mid. And that can just signify that mid control is being taken over. The CT side isn't moving. Instead it was an Iverson, a fallback flash as they went to take banana control. And just hearing that 1 flash on mid slows the rotation down a little bit. So Kscerato, if in the back of his mind he was thinking, oh, might be B, maybe he doesn't move because of that 1 flash. And that's why you see teams throw empty flashes sometimes. They can be used as fakes, or they can be used to, actually take something. And that's why it's important to throw them a lot. If you're a team that never throws them for one reason or the other, then that's going to be the death of you. So, oh, the 1v2 is over. Hobbit flanks mid too, just to make bad go to worse. And now we're into overtime. That was such a strong start in overtime. Wow, the quick jump through. They don't clear anything. There's some good information the player in spawn was throwing the window flash so that they could pop through the smoke. It's a flash that you can't dodge unless you're playing anti on certain positions, but most of the time you're not even going to notice it. All right, so we're moving in. Art actually goes and says, okay, take this off. I'm going to go for the entry. It's the flash to support. Kscerato, he's a guy you want last alive as often as possible. Drop eats his flash, however. Enters, takes out 2. He's the guy who is often sitting just within the site. And, wow, he's just about to basically ace the whole team. A 4K to bring in a second round in overtime. See the bomb-holding player got to replay a last round, so they're actually just phasing the smoke this time around, so no flash. And what this means that if they throw no flash and Gambit don't play anybody on Banana like they did last round, then here's a chance for Furia to walk up the whole way if they'd like to. Now, there could still be an op on the corner, and they can clear that from logs. They're taking a couple steps here. And it's not going to be like, oh my god, I had no idea they took Banana if they're totally quiet. So at this point, Furia still, they still decide to make some noise. But the advantage that they carry forward is just, extra couple of grenades that they would have used in a default clearing out Banana. And here, it's all just scorched earth for Gambit. They give it up. So we don't want to fight here anymore. So you can see these little flashbangs and stuff that are being thrown just to try to get the Molotovs out. Try to get the smoke grenades out from Gambit as they prime the exec. You have the fast smoke on CT, so we know that we're going in now. It doesn't go over the wall, so you can't dodge it. Oh, we'll have one spotted. Both peeking at the same time. Kscerato dies. And, uh-oh. This is where it gets sketchy. 15 seconds. And they didn't get a kill, so it's likely there's someone in halls. There's still someone in pit. Graveyard also could be a problem. And, yeah, that's just Axel sitting there. Oh, they get decimated. The last second rotation is back. There's nothing less fun than that. A lot rested on that one opening kill from Kscerato. But it's not their fault. It's not his fault they lost, all right? The whole rest of the year was all his. Once again, they've just got the note. They're getting Banana for free very often. Here you got to be careful because... So, Kcerato's here, but he's got teammates around the half wall. Actually, no one's playing anti right now, so you got to be careful. Don't actually tuck behind it. And, yeah, oh, wow, he's just actually running in first. So, this strat is to wrap into spawn, but Shiro here's waiting for them. He still hasn't died yet. Oh, and now they're just getting killed by everybody. There could be someone on the sandbags. Kscerato trying to walk in, and ay. This round is too far gone. They even died through the smoke. That is, we'll call it unlucky. Oh, and that's actually part of the end of the major run for Mr. Kscerato. Kscerato. So let's take a look at that year. Overall, we know just really, really stellar in terms of overall stats. He played a number of games versus upper level competition. So he played a significant number of maps versus all these different levels of competition. Of course, with a lot of the year in NA, that made things a little bit tricky, but he played at both Cologne and PGL Stockholm, which are pretty much the 1 and 2 biggest events of the year. There's the Blastfall Final, there's the World Final that's happening right now, and then there's also IEM Winter, which would also have weight, of course, but qualifying to the World Final, that's another story. And also, yeah, just basically making it to IEM Winter. These are just the other things. So not everybody's going to be at every single event, but in the big ones, we had a very solid run, and they didn't have an easy. They were the easy team, right? That's the story about some of these rosters, that they were the easy team. Entropic and Furia and Copenhagen Flame, the team that was supposed to be the one that you farmed, but instead in Brazil they farm you. So win versus Mouse, a loss versus Astralis, but a very strong match. Absolutely owned Liquid and helped assist in their major their loss and their inability to get into the Legend stage. A huge match on Inferno earlier on. And this first game, the 31-19, is the one we just watched here versus Gambit, even though it ended up being a loss. You could see that the first half really caught up to them. And the beginning of the second half as well, they had to make a comeback. They're playing off the back foot the entire time. And they even were able to beat Entropic, which again, they were very, very solid. So that was also super strong. And if we look at Cologne, it was short. So I was thinking, maybe This is it's not good to use Cologne because they didn't have a deep run. But I mean, look, this over the 6 maps, these are just really stellar numbers. And of course, we lost the majority of these games, but it was a very, very strong performance in my opinion from Kscerato. And the team as a whole, maybe lagged behind overall. But in terms of land stuff, in terms of how much he impressed me just watching him play, definitely a standout player for Furia. And me thinking about some of the players in the lesser regions or the players who maybe aren't on the teams that are in all the circuits, who would be here at the bottom of the list, who could still potentially make it. Kscerato is the one who stood out. So that's why I went with Kscerato as my number 19. And as usual, before we go, I would love to ask you who you have for number 18. And of course, the list just gets spicier and spicier as we get through the top 20. That 15 to 20 range. Crazy things happen in that 15 to 20 range. But after that, it's going to be a lot more familiar faces. Yeah, give me a shout. And let me know what some of your logic is for how you look at the year with the few lands that we've had and how you are going to rate the players. Are you going to think a lot about MVPs and EVPs, deep tournament runs, more emphasis on lands and big events, or are you just watching, seeing how HLTV does it? Let me know what you think about that. And as always, be safe. I'll see you tomorrow. Kscerato, number 19.